An undulated sky melt into the landscape. Two silhouettes move along the balustrade walkway, and the ghostly figures features extend in agony. Since Norwegian artist Edvard Munch created the scream in 1893, it's become one of the world's most famous artworks. But why has it cried trouble so far and endured so long? Munch was born in 1863, one of the five children. Tuberculosis devastated Europe throughout the 1800s, killing almost a quarter of all adults. It took Munch's mother's life, then his elder sisters. Soon after, Munch had his own bout of the disease. Another of his sisters experienced mental illness and lived much of her life in an institution. Meanwhile, Munch failed in and out of school due to illness, often spending days at home, drawing and listening to the ominous story his father read aloud. A devout Lutheran, his father considered Munch's artistic ambition unholy. I inherited the seeds of madness, Munch wrote. The angels of fear, sorrow, and death stood by my side since the day I was born. Eventually, Munch moved to Berlin, where he frequented creative circles committed to breaking with academic tradition and instead developing their crafts organically. While Munch had trained classically, he began immersing himself in what he called soul painting, composition that prized raw, subjective effect over realistic branding. It's not the chair that should be painted, he wrote, but what a person has felt at the sight of it. Many of the Munch's works dealt with personal suffering. This may have also led to certain critics observed as unsympathetic portrayal of women in works where Munch represented them as cruel predators victimizing helpless men. And death often haunted Munch's compositions, from a skeleton helming a boat to a morbid self-portrait, and his sister's final moment to a mother's on her bed. And his sister's final moment to a mother's on her deathbed. Her child assuming a now familiar expression. Munch's art generated controversy. Some critics characterized him as absolutely demented, but also drew acclaim. But what had become his most famous work was just around the corner. The Scream was inspired by a moment that overwhelmed Munch with an acute sense of anguish. In the diary entry marked January 22nd in 1892, Munch described walking with two friends along a field overlooking what's now Oslo at sunset. He leaned against the fence, exhausted, and he saw the sky change suddenly. He described blood and the tongues on fire above the blue-black field and the city. As his friend walked on, Munch wrote, I stood there, trembling with anxiety, and sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. As with other painful experiences, Munch revisited the scene repeatedly. First, he depicted it with more recognizably human subject, but the following year, he surrendered it to a dramatic, abstracted symbolism, the haunted expression on the figure's skull-like face, meeting the viewer's gaze directly. On this first version, he added a subtle, wry inscription, could only have been painted by a madman. Based on the Munch's account, many think the figure isn't emitting the shriek, but reacting to it. Munch eventually made full version of the scream, all along cardboard, two with pastel, two with paint. He created numerous prints and lithographs. The year following the first scream, he depicted the same setting, but he featured a collection of despairing faces. In late 1893, Munch premiered The Scream at the Thur exhibit in Berlin. The artwork bold composition helped fuel the expressionist movement, which likewise emphasized stark psychological states, mapping the emotional contours of the World War I and beyond. The Scream continued its crescendo. When it entered the public domain in mid-1900s, new renditions and reproductions bolstered its fame. It's featured in popular films during the 1990s, and the both painted version of The Scream was stolen and recovered in a separate heist in 1994 and 2004. Soon enough, it was widely accepted archetypal symbol for the poor and the unrest. The screen-inspired emoji was eventually implemented, and considering how to mark hazardous sites so far off, future generations could know to avoid them. The US government has considered using a scream expression. While its myriad cultural influences may not always reflect the personal agony Munch initially rendered, the scream was certainly found a near universal echo.